Hello, my name is John Tigg. I'm the superintendent of schools for Franklin West Supervisory Union, serving the students of Fairfax, Fletcher, and Georgia. This is a video for the people of Fletcher regarding the long-term weighted average daily membership. If you watched the video about budgets in Vermont that I shared last week, you'll know that this is an important number in the calculation of your tax rate. If you didn't get a chance to look at that, then I'd suggest you pause this video right now and go back, find that video, and we'll wait right here for you to get that done, and then we'll continue on. All right, great. Welcome back. Let's continue to learn about the long-term weighted average daily membership. The LTWADM is how it's abbreviated. And it sort of is how we get from looking at the students of Fletcher that are actual students to a number that shows up in the calculations. So when we calculate the long-term weighted average daily membership, we need to get some numbers. The first that we get is the average daily membership. The ADM in Fletcher for the prior year, last year, was 198.2. And you might be asking yourself, well, how do you get a 0.2? What this does is it counts this ADM average daily membership, counts the student count every day for a 25-day period, late September to early October or late October. And so if a student was enrolled in the school for only 20% of that time, then we get a 0.2. If they're enrolled for half the time, so maybe they moved to Fletcher or moved out of Fletcher halfway through that counting, we get a 0.5. So that's what that is. That's an actual pretty close to measurement of the number of students. And again, this is from pre-K to 12 that are associated with the Fletcher school. Last year we had 192 as our average. Last year was 198. This current year is 192. We had no state place students. That's what the zero there is. 18.55 students in pre-K. You can see 74.65 in K through 5, 52.48 in grade 6 through 8. Our secondary population who go to all go to various high schools, 49.43. We had 72.2 students that qualified at the federal poverty level and one English language learner. And important information is that Fletcher's population density is less than 100. It's 35.9. And so that's kind of a measure of ruralness of Fletcher. So how do we go from having all these numbers to making it mean something that impacts your taxes? The first thing we do is we look at your small schools number, and your average two-year enrollment is 90.5. We have less than 100 students, and so that qualifies us as a small school. The next thing we do is to calculate your long-term average daily membership, long-term being over the course of 2 years. So this year we came up with 192. Last year we had 198.2. And so our average daily membership over the long-term 2 years is 195.1 students, 0 state place students. So our LTADM is 195.1. So again, that kind of represents number of beating hearts in the actual school, in the actual K-12 community at Fletcher. From here, we do some calculations. So Fletcher has 18.55 students in pre-K. Because pre-K students are only served 10 hours a week, they take less cost to educate. And so for every one of those, we reduce by 0.54. So those 18.55 students gives us a 10.02 reduction in our pupil count. Elementary is the sort of the base weight. So that 74.65 students counts just as the one that we get in the count. Middle school students, they've theory being that perhaps when you get to middle school, you might have a math, science, English, and social studies teacher, so it costs a little bit more. So a middle school student gets an additional 0.36 of a weight. Multiply that by the 52.48 students, we get an 18.89 additional weight. Similarly, for high school, 0.39 is the added cost for a high school student. Students that are economically disadvantaged, which means they're 185% of the federal poverty level, get an additional weight of 1.03. So multiplying that 1.03 by the 72.2 students that have been identified as being economically disadvantaged gives an additional weight of 74.37. Our one English language learner adds an additional 2.49. students. And then because we have a population density of less than 36, we get an extra 0.15 for each one of our students, which results in an additional 29.27 weight. And then our small schools, we get 0.21 extra because we are less than 100 students, which is an additional 19.01 students. So comparing to last year, numbers are pretty close to the same. A little less of a reduction last year for pre-K, a little less weight for middle school students, a little more weight for high school students, and our federal poverty level is relatively the same. The thing to bear in mind is if a student moves in and or out of Fletcher, say they were a middle school student, say a sixth grader, and they happen to be at the federal poverty level, they count as one for just being a student. They count an extra 0.36 for being in middle school, and they count an extra 1.03 for if they're economically disadvantaged. So one student moving in or out of Fletcher during that ADM time period could be essentially 2.4 weights that, again, go bound to calculate your tax rate. So our total weights are 153.28. If we add that to the ADM from the previous page, our long-term weighted average daily membership is 348.38. Sorry, add those two together and that's long-term weighted average daily membership, 348.38. That's the number that's used as we calculate your tax rate. Sorry about that little confusion for myself. So that's the answer to how do we get from the number of actual students that get on and off the bus or in and out of cars to the actual long-term weighted average daily membership. That's what this video is about. I referenced the Vermont's education funding system video. Next video will be about class size, staffing ratios, Act 73, and your return on your investment. We'll get into a budget overview video, and then finally the tax calculation and household impact. We're hoping that you have all these ready for when early voting begins on Wednesday, February 11th. Remember, if you're not going to be in town on voting day or people in your household aren't going to be in town, you can request an early ballot or an absentee ballot from your town office. The informational meeting, it's a different day than we normally do, Monday, February 23rd at about 6:45 or a little later, depending on when the town presentation is due. And voting day is March 3rd, 2026 at the town's clerk's office. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you have some idea of what long-term weighted average daily membership is. And if you have questions, please reach out, come to a school board meeting, come to the information meeting. Happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks for watching.